Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering one of the most exciting upcoming RPGs of 2025, Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. This is a game fans have been waiting for literally decades, and Square Enix has finally answered the call. Before we dive in, a quick note. All the gameplay you're seeing here is from Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions. Since the Ivalice Chronicles doesn't release until September 30th, 2025, we don't have actual gameplay footage yet, but this should give you a good visual baseline for what kind of tactical battles and job-based progression we can expect when the new game launches. Let's start with a bit of context. Final Fantasy Tactics originally released on the PlayStation in 1997, and it immediately carved out its own identity in the Final Fantasy universe. Unlike the mainline games, which focused on traditional turn-based RPG mechanics, Tactics went full strategy RPG, grid-based maps, unit positioning, and a job system that allowed for an incredible amount of customization. It wasn't just the gameplay though. Final Fantasy Tactics also became famous for its complex, mature storyline, full of political intrigue, betrayal, and morally gray choices. It's not an exaggeration to say it's one of the darkest and most layered stories Square has ever told in the Final Fantasy franchise. Fast forward a decade later in 2007, and we got Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions on PSP. That version added new cutscenes, new jobs, and cleaned up the translation, giving the game an even more timeless feel. Since then, fans have been asking, when do we get another full-scale Tactics game? And for years, Square Enix stayed quiet, until now. First, it's set once again in Ivalice, one of the most beloved worlds in Final Fantasy history. If you played Final Fantasy XII, Tactics Advance, or even Vagrant Story, you've seen different corners of this world. What Square Enix is promising with the Ivalice Chronicles is a game that pulls those threads together, uniting elements of the world's lore and history into a single narrative. Second, the job system is back. Square hasn't revealed the full roster of jobs yet, but it's safe to assume we'll see fan favorites like Knight, Black Mage, and Dragoon. What's exciting is the potential for brand new jobs designed specifically for this game. Will we see modern Final Fantasy influences, like jobs inspired by 14 or 16? That's something a lot of fans are hoping for. Third, they've confirmed that the core is still tactical grid-based combat. We don't know how far they're modernizing it, but Square Enix has suggested that this will be the most approachable Tactics game yet, meaning they might be streamlining certain systems while still preserving the depth hardcore fans want. Another important piece of the puzzle is the creative team. While Square hasn't laid out every single credit, they've confirmed that several veterans of the original Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre projects are involved. That's a big deal. The original Final Fantasy Tactics was directed by Yatsumi Matsuno, who also worked on Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy XII. While Matsuno himself isn't confirmed to be directly leading this project, his influence is all over Ivalice, and knowing that veterans from his past teams are contributing gives fans confidence. In terms of presentation, we're expecting updated visuals, most likely something in line with Tactics Ogre Reborn. That game was praised for keeping the classic sprite-based look while giving its modern polish, higher resolution assets, and quality of life tweaks. If Square Enix applies the same philosophy here, we could be looking at the definitive modern version of the Final Fantasy Tactics experience. One of the most exciting parts about the Ivalice Chronicles is the opportunity to tell a new story in a familiar world. Fans of Final Fantasy Tactics know the original game followed Ramza Belov and his struggle against corruption, betrayal, and war. It was heavy, emotional, and incredibly ambitious for its time. With the Ivalice Chronicles, Square Enix hasn't revealed much about the main cast yet, but if history is any indicator, we'll see a mix of noble houses, mercenary bands, and religious factions all vying for power. Expect themes of loyalty, honor, betrayal, and survival, all staples of the Tactics formula. And since this is explicitly framed as a return to Ivalice, don't be surprised if we see connections to the kingdoms and histories touched in Final Fantasy XII or Tactics Advance. This could be the game that ties together all those different timelines and settings into one good narrative. Of course, there's still a ton we don't know. How much of the combat system is being modernized? Will it include online or multiplayer features? How big will the cast of characters be compared to the older games? And importantly, how will the difficulty balance be handled? Fans of the original Final Fantasy Tactics will remember how brutally hard certain fights could be, and while that challenge was part of the appeal, it sometimes bordered on unfair. If the Ivalice Chronicles can strike the right balance, offering a challenge that's rewarding but not punishing, it could be the most accessible tactics game yet. This game matters because strategy RPGs are having a moment. We've seen recent hits like Fire Emblem, Three Houses, Triangle Strategy, and Tactics Ogre Reborn. The genre is thriving again, and Square Enix bringing back one of the most legendary tactical RPG franchises of all time is a statement. It's not just about nostalgia, it's about introducing a whole new generation of players to Ivalice while giving longtime fans the return they've been waiting for. If the Ivalice Chronicles delivers, it could set the standard for strategy RPGs going forward. So that's where we stand with Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. We know it's coming September 30th, 2025. We know it's set in Ivalice, and we know the job system and tactical combat are back. What we don't know is just as exciting: the new story, the new characters, and how Square Enix plans to evolve the formula. Again, all the footage you've seen today has been from Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions, the most recent tactics game until now. It's been nearly 2 decades since that release, which makes the new entry all the more special. I want to hear from you. What do you want most from the Ivalice Chronicles? Do you want a faithful continuation of Final Fantasy Tactics classic style? Or are you hoping for bold new changes to the formula? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this preview, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss future updates as we get closer to launch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.